Okay, so Jim, you want to take the floor before we get things formally underway?
Sure. So I wanted to address the board tonight, after 27 thrill-packed years, and I do say there were some thrilling times in my time on the board. I've decided it's time to retire. So in that regard, um, this will be my last meeting, and I want to tell you all that I thoroughly enjoyed working with all of you. I've seen some of you from the beginning grow to be wonderful members of our committee. Um, I'm proud to say that going back as far as Jimmy Kirk, and then it was, I believe it was Mayor Watkins, then Mayor Mascaratola, then Mayor Mignon, and then Mayor Papaleo. I was re-upped by all five different mayors going back into the, I guess, early 90s. And I've really enjoyed my time here, but I've taken on a new role as the newly elected vice president of the Bergen Board of Realtors. And I've also taken on a role about a year and a half ago, as you're all well aware, as grandpa. So I decided to devote more time to those things for now and, and go out on top. And I've enjoyed working with all of you. I don't know what else to say. Whenever I take my travels up and down Kindercamack Road and I look at some of the things we've accomplished, it's nothing short of um, exhilarating. And I can tell you, I've heard from mayors all up and down the Kindercamack corridor saying, wanting to know how we do what we do and how we get our building owners to take care of the buildings the way we do. And many of the towns are jealous of our board. And there's, it's easy to figure out why, because you guys are all always on point. So again, I've enjoyed working with you guys, and occasionally I'm going to pop on and listen to you. And I appreciate all the support you've given me in the past as both a member and your chairman for 5 years. So on that note,
Don't leave yet.
say,
So, Mr. Chairman, could I have a point of personal privilege?
You may, absolutely, Mr. Mayor.
So, before Jim goes away, I want to, on behalf of the borough, on behalf of myself and the council, thank him for his years of selfless service. Jim has done a tremendous tribute to the town, and we'll have a proclamation for him set up very soon. Jim, you work hard. You were the chairperson of this board for a number of years, and you were many times the memory with other members of the board. And I wanted to make sure that I acknowledged you at this point and to publicly thank you for all you've done, not just for this board, but for the borough of River Edge, for the town, for the people in so many ways.
I thank you, Mayor. That's very, very kind.
Mr. Chair.
Hey,
Go ahead, Mr. Merman. You beat me.
yeah, Jim, it's been great time working with you, lending assistance to you, and I wish you best wishes in your semi-retirement to a new life.
I think we've been together for a long time, and I've thoroughly enjoyed your counsel and our occasional phone calls. You're always the guy that finds stuff that nobody else does, and I'm sure the rest of the board recognizes that as well. And working with you side by side has been an eye-opening and a great learning experience for me. So thank you.
I thank you.
I'll jump in next. I wouldn't be on this board if it wasn't for you. I wouldn't be involved with our realtor board because of you. So I have a lot to thank you for, and I owe a lot to you. And if you had told me you were doing this, I would have talked you out of it. But you've been an asset to this board, you're an asset to this town, and you will be sorely, sorely missed here. But thank you for all your service and time to this board and this community.
Ryan, you know, I've known your mom for the better part of 30 years. And in that time, of course, I've got to watch you grow up. And I saw leadership in you from many years on. And we worked together, of course, in the same office. I saw the drive that you had. And I said, this is a guy that I got to get involved with our town. And as you know, as well, I've been pushing you into the leadership area of our board of directors, of our real estate board as well. I watched you grown into an amazing member of this committee, and I know it's a daunting task to start out, but you've come so long. I know that we're left in really good hands with you being on the board. So I appreciate your kind words, Ryan.
Appreciate it, Jim.
Well, Jim, we'll certainly miss your wealth of experience and guidance along the way here, and certainly your ability to have empathy for applicants while trying to maintain the balance of things as they are, and the mission of the board and trying to achieve our mission which is to make sure the land use of the town is properly addressed, and it's no easy task, and certainly you did it with a tremendous amount of as I say, empathy and professionalism, and for that I certainly appreciate it. And having stepped into your shoes, which were certainly large shoes to fill, I appreciate the guidance you have provided along the way. So thank you for that. And unless anybody else has anything further, I'm going to suggest we call the meeting to order.
I'm just going to, another matter of personal privilege, Mr. Caslin.
Just go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
First of all, I want to thank you and Ms. Bolin for agreeing to be reappointed. I am very, very grateful. You do a lot of great work for the town, and I am greatly appreciative of the fact that you were willing to take on another term. I also want to thank Mr. Esposito, Gary Esposito, for his years of service. He needed to drop out in December. We will be replacing him soon. And I also want to thank Councilman Canigo for the work he did, and welcome Councilman David Glass. However, Jim was able to talk his replacement into taking the position that I was not. I approached Councilman Canigo and asked him to take a position on the board. He at that time, it was right around end of December, beginning of January, and he felt he really had too many commitments. Jim called him back up and said, hey, you got to take over my position, finish my 2 years. And Councilman Canigo heeded the second call, which I'm grateful for, and we will be appointing Mr. Canigo, no longer Councilman Canigo, former Councilman Canigo, to the board on the 22nd of January, and then he will rejoin the board. And I hope to have someone appointed to Mr. Esposito's position at that time too. It's a lot of work, this board. Jim did it for 27 amazing years, and I hope everyone can stay on for 27 years. I wish that for everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Councilman Glass. Thank you, Mr. Esposito and Councilman Canigo for his service, and now his return soon. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, being I see that you have a quorum, I'm going to tap out at this point.
Okay.
And again, I'm going to bid you all good night, and again, a grateful thank you for all your kind words.
Thanks,
And
Jim.
I don't want to miss out on my good friend Ed Alter. What a terrific job he had done as our board secretary. He was my right-hand man when I was the chairman, and I know Chris feels the same way about him. And I don't want to leave that unsaid, because he's been nothing short of fantastic. And I've also built a nice friendship with him as well. So, you get some nice things out of being on these committees, and that's one of them. All right, I'm not going to kill the time here. I know Cream Papaya is anxious to get themselves going. So I'll say goodnight and I'll see you soon.
I thank you for that.
Thanks,
Bye,
Jim.
Jim. Thanks.
Hi, Jim.
Good night. Take care, Jim.
Lisa, you all set?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right, we'll get the show on the road. We'll call the meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge. Today is Wednesday, January 10th, 2024. The time now is 7:41 p.m. This meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge is being held remotely and recorded via Zoom due to Borough Council chambers unavailability and is in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act and associated regulations. Notice of this remote meeting was published in the Bergen Record on October 6, 2022, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall and posted on the borough's website. The notice included the dial-in and login information necessary for public participation and access to this meeting remotely. Copy of the agenda for the meeting was made available on the borough's website near the posting of the meeting notice and included the dial-in and login information. During the public comment period of this meeting, if you would like to make a public comment, please press the raise hand button on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. The board will address you by name or by the last 4 digits of your telephone number. You may mute and unmute yourself by pressing the microphone icon on Zoom or dialing *6 on your telephone keypad. You must state your name and address clearly prior to making a public comment. With that, I will ask Ms. Snively to call the roll, please.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Here.
There we go. Mr. Caslin?
Here.
Ms. Boland?
Here.
Mr. Merman?
Here.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Here.
Mr. Cray?
Here.
Councilman Glass?
Here.
Mr. Gibbons?
Here.
Mr. Bastide?
Here.
Also present, Mr. Behrens and Mr. Flores from the engineering office.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Our first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of minutes from our December 13, 2023 meeting. Draft set of the minutes was circulated to the board for review prior to this evening's meeting. I open it up to the board for comments and or questions on the minutes as provided.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Merman.
I have a comment on the minutes, and it's basically a hanging sentence, and I'll go over it. On the Diaby item, the Fifth Avenue, the 390 Fifth Avenue. If you read the first sentence, it reads out a draft of the resolution was circulated throughout the board for. There's a blank there. It should add the word review. And then after it, it should say, Mr. Merman has. Am I reading too fast? Okay.
Nope.
It should continue on. Mr. Berman has reviewed the resolution and finds it's acceptable and the meeting and recommends the motion, makes a motion to approve the minutes. Basically, we just got to complete that whole item. That's it.
Okay, anyone else? I just had a couple of just edits under questions from the board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines down the statement. The line begins removal, but a replacement. Following the hyphen, he instead of differs, that word should be defers. DEFERS. This is I'm sorry, this is page 6 of the minutes. And on page 7, just another minor typo, just under Paul Yoon, the penultimate line of the second paragraph there. I think the word he should be the elevation is 99.18. That's all I have. If anyone else has any comments, questions on the minutes? Okay, if not, I will look for a motion to approve the minutes with those few edits.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Craig.
All right, for this meeting, Mr. Bastide was absent and Mr. Glass was not a member yet. So we can do an all in favor.
Okay, so with those exceptions, members of the board, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstain? Okay. Thank you very much. Moving along in our agenda, our next item this evening under memorializations is a resolution for the application of Daniel and Amanda Fitzpatrick. Property is 211 Valley Road, block 1103, lot 32. Resolution granting variance for maximum improved lot coverage. Draft of the resolution was circulated prior to this evening's meeting for review by the board. Open it to the board for comments and or questions.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one edit, I guess two, on page 2. Under the second whereas clause number 4, I wrote resolution number 2005-09, but it should be 29, and I'm going to include the reference to the date of the resolution, which is January 11th, 2006. And I'm also going to add the date to the bottom of page 2 under paragraph 2, right next to the resolution number. I'm going to add the date as well.
Okay.
Those
Thanks
are
for
the
that.
only.
Questions or comments on the board? Okay, with those two changes Ms. Steinle mentioned, I will look for a motion to approve the resolution. Thank you, Mr. Cray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Mullin.
All right, I'll only call those eligible to vote. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
and Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Our next item on the agenda this evening is Paul Yoon, 82 Spring Valley Avenue, block 208, lot 19. A resolution granting variance for maximum improved lot coverage. Draft of the resolution was circulated prior to this evening's meeting to the board for review. Open it to the board for comments or questions on the draft resolution.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Merman.
I reviewed this resolution also, and I find it acceptable as written.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any further comments from the board? Okay, there being none, I'll look to the board for a motion to approve the resolution as provided.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Gibbons, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boland.
All right, again, I'll only call those eligible to vote. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. Next item under memorialization for this evening is a resolution establishing the annual meeting schedule for 2024 for the board. There was a discussion of the meeting with a few revisions was back on our last meeting on December 13th. And a draft of the resolution with those changes reflected was circulated to the board prior to this evening. I open it to the board for comments and or questions on the resolution.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, would you like to swear in all of the returning members so then we can do the vote on the calendar for 2024 with Mr. Glass included?
Sure, we can move that around. That probably makes sense. So we have a full complement. That's fine. We do have a quorum now, but might as well take care of that formality now.
Okay,
So let's hold that thought for the moment.
so I have the mayor, Mr. Caslin, Councilman Glass, and Ms. Boland as being sworn in tonight. What I'll do is I can go through everyone individually, or we can do it as a group. I know we've done it in the past as a group, but it can be a little bit confusing, whatever you'd prefer.
I think a group works.
Group works, yeah.
Okay.
I
Works
think
for
there's
me.
there's just three of us, so yeah. Well, let's go with the group.
Okay, all right, so
Four of
if
us.
everyone can raise your right hand. And then just say I and repeat after me. I state your name.
I
I, Eileen
Boland,
Boland,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do
do
solemnly
solemnly
swear
swear
and
and
affirm
that I will faithfully,
That
that
I
I
will
will faithfully,
impartially, and justly
impartially,
impartially and
justly
justly
perform all of the duties of the office of
perform
perform
all
all
of
the
the
duties
duties
of the office of land use board member.
land
Yep,
use
and then
member,
so
board member.
for the mayor, it'll be class 1 member, for Mr.
Class
Caslin,
1.
class 2 member, for Councilman Glass, it'll be class 3 member, and for Ms. Boland, it'll be class 4 member. So all the duties of the office of state your class,
all the
Class
duties
4.
of the
Class
office
2
of
member.
class 1
and that of the Borough of River Edge Municipal Land Use Board
The
Of
Borough
the Borough of
River Edge
River Edge
Municipal
Municipal
Land
Land
Use
Use Board.
Board
to the best of my ability,
to
the
the
best
best
of
of
my
my
best of my
ability,
ability.
and that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and
And
that
and that
I
I
will
will
support
support
the
the
Constitution
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the
and the
And the
Constitution of
Constitution of the
the
State of New Jersey.
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will
And
bear
that I
that
will
I
bear
bear
true
true
faith
faith
and allegiance to the same
and
and
allegiance
to the same.
and to the governments established
and to the
And to the
governments
governments
established
established
in the United States
in the United States
States
and in this state
and
and
in
in
this
this
state
state
under the authority of the people.
under
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 the
the
authority
authority
of
of
the
the people.
All right, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now then, so we got the swearing and taken care of. Let's return to what we have our last memorialization for this evening, which was the establishment of the schedule for the board's meetings for calendar year 2024. Draft resolution was circulated to the board prior to the meeting. Comments or questions from the board on the draft resolution as provided? Okay, there being none, I'll look for a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. There a second?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cray.
We can do all in
We'll do a
favor.
voice vote. Okay. With that, all those in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? All right. Thank you very much. We're going to move now into the reorganization of the board for 2024. Our first item under reorganization is the election of officers of the board. And the first position is chair. Do I have a nomination for chair of the board?
I would nominate you, Mr. Caslin.
second,
Anyone else?
You're not getting out of it.
Apparently not. All right. Well, if there are no further nominations, I'll look for a motion on the nomination of myself, and I won't vote on it, but I'll look for somebody to approve the nomination.
I'll make a motion to approve or to nominate Chris Caslin as our chair for the 2024 calendar year.
I second.
Second,
Okay,
Put Mr. Merman down at the second, not me.
Okay. And we can do a voice vote on this one as well.
okay, well, I'll abstain.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll continue to drive the ship forward, hopefully, for 2024. And with that, my partner in crime, or not crime, but the next position is vice chair of the board. I'll open it for nominations for vice chair, please.
I nominate Mr. Merman.
I'd second that.
All right. Anyone else for vice chair other than Mr. Merman? All right, Ms. Steinle?
All right. The second was Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
I'll
opposed?
abstain.
Abstain? Okay. All
And
right,
Mr. Merman will abstain.
all right, the motion passes.
All right, our next
Thank you.
position is board secretary. May I have a nomination, please?
I nominate Mr. Gibbons.
I second that.
All right. Anyone else for board secretary? Okay, Ms. Steinle?
All right, we can do a voice vote, so all in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain?
I'll abstain.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Motion passes.
Okay, the next item on our reorganization agenda is the appointment of our professionals. Our first professional is board attorney. We have a resolution to reappoint Cleary, Jacoby, Alfieri, Jacobs LLC as the Municipal Land Use Board Attorney for 2024. Draft of the resolution was circulated to the board prior to this evening. Any questions, comments on that? Okay, I will look for a motion to approve reappointment of our board attorney for 2024.
I would move to approve Cleary, Jacoby, Alfieri, Jacobs LLC as our board attorney.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. We'll do a voice vote.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
fine.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Any opposed, any abstain? Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
thank
Maria.
you all. Our next professional for reappointment is the planner. We're looking at reappointing Burgess Associates as the board planner for 2024. Draft resolution was circulated on this prior to the meeting, and I open it to a motion to reappoint Burgess Associates as our board planner. Thank you, Mr. Cray. Is there a second?
Second.
second,
I think I got Ms. Boland as a second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Any opposed, any abstain? All right, resolution passes. Thank you.
Thank you all. Pleasure to be back.
Thank you, Tom.
And lastly, we have our board engineer. We're looking to reappoint Costa Engineering Corporation as the board engineer for 2024. Draft resolution was circulated prior to this evening's meeting. And I'll look for a motion on reappointment of Costa Engineering as our board engineer.
I'll motion to continue to appoint Costa Engineering as our engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. We'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Any opposed, any abstain? All right, thank you very much. With that, I think we've completed the reorganization portion of our meeting this evening. Congratulations to all those who were reappointed. Next on our agenda for this evening is completeness review. The first item there is for 216 Lozier Terrace, block 1206, lot 17. This is an application for various improvements, including a new pergola, pavers, patio, and outdoor kitchen stone areas, seeking variance relief. Ms. Steinle.
Yes, thank you. Prior to the meeting, I reviewed the proofs submitted by the applicant and found them to be sufficient for the board to have jurisdiction over the application tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Behrens.
Yes, from a completeness perspective, as you said, Mr. Chairman, the application is for improvements to the rear yard, which include a patio, pergola, an outdoor kitchen. The applicant submitted a survey and a plan for those improvements, so I believe that information is adequate for the board to proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Behrens. Mr. Flores.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Yes, my office reviewed the site plans, the survey plans, and also the letter of denial from Tom, and we find sufficient for the board to hear the professionals on this matter.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any comments from the board? Questions on the completeness aspects of this application? Okay, there being none, I'll look for a motion on completeness, please.
So moved.
Okay, I think I've got a motion from Mr. Gibbons and a second from Mr. Cray.
That'll work.
All right. I will do a roll call vote. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
yes,
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
and Mr. Bastide.
Yes.
And for the record, Mr. Bastide is seated to vote on the applications tonight.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Our next application for completeness, the applicant is Jenny Castaneda Tam. Property is 429 Windsor Road, block 809, lot 25. The application relates to a proposed renovation for dwelling, patio, pool, and driveway extension. Rebuild on an existing foundation and a two-story addition, seeking variance relief. Ms. Steinle.
Yes, thank you. Prior to the meeting, I reviewed the proofs submitted by the applicant and found them to be sufficient for the board to hear the application tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Behrens.
Sure. From a completeness perspective, the application for additions to the existing dwelling, as well as pool and patio in the rear and driveway expansion in the front, the applicant submitted a property survey of existing conditions and plans for those improvements, which appear to be adequate for the application to proceed.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Flores?
My office reviewed the site plan provided by Michael Capo AA Architects LCC, and they provide sufficient information for the board to move forward with the application.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the board on completeness? Okay, I will look for a motion to deem this application complete.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Is there a second?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Craig.
All right, I will do a roll call vote. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
yes,
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes, sorry.
and Mr. Bastide.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. And our final application for completeness this evening is Green Papaya. Property is 110 Kinderkamack Road, block 1407, lot 5. This is a change in ownership of the Green Papaya restaurant. requiring a site plan approval for a food handler's license. Ms. Steinle.
Yes, thank you. Prior to this meeting, I reviewed the proof submitted by the applicant and the applicant's attorney and found them to be sufficient and complete for the board to hear the application tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Behrens?
Yes, I believe the application is simply for a change in ownership, which involves a food handler's license. I don't believe the applicant is proposing any site plan modifications. I do have a few comments in that regard, but from a completeness perspective, it looks like there's enough to proceed with this application.
Okay, thanks, sir. Mr. Flores?
My office reviewed the existing condition site plans provided by Morgan Engineering Surveys. Like Tom said, that it's a change of ownership and the applicant doesn't seek to do any improvement on the site.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from the board on this application as far as completeness? Okay, I'll look for a motion to deem the application complete, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boland, and I think I've got a second from Mr. Cray.
All right, I will do roll call. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes, yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
and Councilman Glass,
Yes.
and Mr. Bastide.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're gonna shift now into the new business section of our agenda for the evening. First item is property is 216 Lozier Terrace, block 1206, lot 17. Various improvements are proposed, including a new pergola, pavers, patio, and outdoor kitchen stone areas, seeking variance relief. I believe we have the applicant in attendance this evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, I'll have to swear you in, so if you please raise your right hand. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And then please just state your name and address for.
I'm going to withhold my name as my name is protected under Daniel's law from public record. So I'm requesting that I be referred to as the homeowner.
I think that that's sufficient for this application. The borough does have the records for if there was an appeal of this application in the future, the borough does have the records. So if that came to it, we would have to provide that to them. But
Okay.
at this time, I think that's acceptable.
Any questions from the board on this? Okay. Everybody's made aware of this previously. That's fine. So we'll continue with swearing in.
Do you have any professionals here with you today?
Yes, I have Jeff Hauser from Hauser Engineering.
Okay. And you'll be serving as the applicant's engineer? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay. So if you please raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And then please state your name, provide your business address for the record, and then provide the board with some background on your experience and qualification.
Sure. Jeffrey Hauser, Houser. I'm with Hauser Engineering. And business address 1141 Greenwood Lake Turnpike in Ringwood, New Jersey, 07456. I'm the owner and principal of Hauser Engineering. I've been a licensed professional engineer since 2008. I earned my Bachelor of Engineering degree from Stevens Institute of Technology in Hoboken. I've been a practicing civil engineer since before I was licensed. And I'm also licensed in New York, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. I've appeared before numerous boards in the capacity as a designer of various grading plans, site plans, stormwater management plans.
And your license is current and in good standing in New Jersey?
Yes.
Have you appeared before us in the past, Mr. Hauser?
I have not.
Okay. Questions from the board as to Mr. Hauser's qualifications? Okay. Then I'll turn to you, Mr. Hauser, and the applicant to, if you would, as one or both of you, if you would kindly provide a summary of the improvements that you're proposing to undertake and the relief you're seeking from the board this evening.
Sure. I guess I'll start and I'll let Jeff explain more of the technical aspects of it. But for us as homeowners, we moved to River Edge a few years ago, and we don't have a backyard space currently. It's all grass. We haven't once been able to actually enjoy the backyard. So we're really looking to have a space where our kids can go back into the backyard and enjoy the backyard. We can enjoy the outdoor area, and in a nutshell, we're really homebodies and we stay home a lot. But when we stay home, we'd actually also like to go outside at the same time, especially during the warmer months. So I'm hoping that we can get some relief here in order for us to at least have a space that we could enjoy. Obviously, property value will probably go up for us, which I think is probably a good thing for the town too. So I'm hoping that we can get through this.
Okay.
So with that said, the applicant hired us several months ago and was actually looking to do quite an elaborate hardscape plan. It included a pool, a lot of gravel areas, a lot more patio. He actually engaged a landscape architect to prepare this plan, and we were brought on board to seek a variance. And once we started doing the analysis, we realized that he would be asking for a bit much. So he scaled it back his project considerably. Prior versions of this that the municipality has not seen essentially had hardscape across the entire backyard. We are seeking 3 variances tonight. One for maximum lot coverage, one for maximum improved lot coverage, and one for total coverage for accessory building or an accessory structure. As it currently is, there is an existing nonconformity for maximum lot coverage. The R1 residential zone allows for a 25% maximum lot coverage, which would be 2,197.5 square feet. As it currently is, the existing house alone falls within 3.5 square feet of that max coverage number. And when you factor in some existing pavers and steps out the back of the property, the existing conditions exceed that 25% threshold. It's actually 26%. The applicant intends to seek relief for a modest 10% increase over the existing, which would have a 28.6% coverage or 2,517.7 square feet. Similarly, the maximum improved lot coverage, the maximum coverage is 35%. It's currently 34.8%. When you factor in these new accessory structures and the patio, we will be at 40%. And then for the accessory structure, which is a pergola itself, the pergola is approximately 15 by 17. It's an open air structure. It's not like it's a shed or detached garage, but the ordinance only allows a maximum coverage of 150 square feet for an accessory structure. And we're going to be at 236.2 square feet for this approximate 15 by 17 pergola. The rest of the yard is going to be regraded as lawn in the backyard. To offset this increase in improved coverage, we've proposed some modest stormwater management. We're proposing to take a downspout from the property and install a lawn inlet that'll run to a recharge chamber surrounded by gravel. Now, in our analysis, we used a 10-year storm, which would be 1.95 inches of rain over our impervious coverage. I will acknowledge that Costa Engineering said that it needs to be a 3-inch rainfall over the coverage. I just wanted to point out that in our analysis, so with the 1.95 inches, we only needed, we only needed 547 gallons of storage. What we provided was for 988 gallons. If we redo the calculations for the 3-inch rainfall, we need 842 gallons of storage. So the proposed 988 will satisfy that requirement without the need for any additional design revisions. Overall, the modest patio with the outdoor kitchen area on top of that patio and the fairly modest pergola in the backyard provides an outdoor living space for the owner to enjoy the backyard. The increases in the coverage are minimal overall in the big scheme of things. If it was not for the house as constructed, essentially occupying the entirety of the maximum lot coverage, it left very little room for any hardscape improvements or any accessory structures in the backyard. So, you know, as this property was originally developed with that size house, just didn't leave a lot of room for outdoor living. And as time's gone on, especially on the heels of COVID, people tend to stay home, enjoy their outdoor living space a little bit more. And this proposal allows for that.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm going to turn first to our planner, Mr. Behrens.
Sure. Good evening. Thank you for that presentation. I guess I'll ask either the applicant or the engineer. In terms of the pergola, I don't believe we've received any details. Can you please confirm the height of the pergola? If you know it off.
I'm sorry, I can try to look it up right now.
Well, the reason we have an accessory.
Sorry.
We have that's all good. We have a maximum accessory building height requirement of 12 feet. So just to, I mean, you can acknowledge that and just say whatever, you know, if the board approves this, that you know, maintain that maximum height of the pergola.
Yeah, no, the height's only 8 feet 2 inches. So
okay, it's helpful to understand. Okay.
Yep.
And that's at the highest point.
Exactly.
Is that accurate? Okay. Okay. And I mean, in some respects, this is fairly straightforward, but I guess just to hone in on some of the issues, can you talk about, I guess, which way the backyard pitches to? I think there's a stream in the, I guess we'll call it the backyard. Is that accurate?
There is, yes.
Okay. So does the backyard pitch toward that stream or
Yes.
does it pitch toward a neighbor? Okay.
No, it's just towards the stream.
Very good. You identified, I think I heard 2 of the 3 variances you mentioned. I apologize if I didn't hear the third. So we have the lot coverage variance, improved lot coverage, and there's also the borough has a maximum accessory structure footprint of 150 square feet, and the pergola, I believe, is 236.2 square feet. So just in terms of, again, identifying the requested variance relief. And in total, it seems that the total proposed coverage increase is 428 square feet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's what the plans indicate. So for the board's benefit and even the applicant, this is a situation where a new house was built, well, I'll say maybe within the last 3 to 5 years, and the developer basically maxed out the footprint of the house and a double width driveway leaving no area in the rear for a rear amenity, which would be typical otherwise in River Edge. And so, here we are again. I know we're going to address this, at some point this year, but that's the current situation. So I guess the question would be to the applicant, have you looked at, I know the proposed improved lot coverage is 40%. Have you looked at any other ways of, modifying this, or is this kind of the where you've landed in terms of what would be the minimum of what you would want to do back there?
Yeah, so just like Jeff was saying earlier, originally before we moved to the town, we weren't aware of the coverage ordinances. So, we just thought that, we could try to go for a pool and a really grand backyard. But, we actually went all the way up to the point where we met with Ed Alter, who's been nothing but helpful. And at that point, Ed had suggested that we confer with an attorney. And when the attorney looked at the site plan, he right away said that, listen, you have to redo this. So we went back to the engineer. We spent more money on revising the plan. And, even with the landscape architect, in hindsight, we probably didn't even need the landscape architect because the design now is so simple. So even with that, we'd spent a bunch of money, and, up to this point, we probably spent almost eight to 10 grand. So, we did compromise a lot, and we're obviously trying to do the right thing, and we're trying to get a variance, and we're trying to conform to, what's basically, normal in the town. So I'm hoping that this very modest addition to the house is going to get approved.
All right. And my final comments and question, it looks like you already have 6-foot high fencing. Are there any landscape improvements proposed anywhere around the house? Like, I guess, sometimes a justification for a variance could be, improvements to the property in the form of either aesthetics. I think you've offered that you're doing stormwater management. So I would just offer that, if there's anything you wanted to offer to the board for consideration in terms of, again, benefits to the town, to the neighborhood.
Sure.
I would take that into consideration.
Yeah, so as far as, landscaping and aesthetics, I guess it depends on how much money we have left at the end of the day, because, those things are things that I think can happen after hardscaping. I think hardscaping is our priority right now. But we are really trying hard to see where we could make landscape improvements and, plant, plants and little bushes and things of that sort.
Oh, we do have identified on the plans some landscape areas with mulching beds that the plantings could go in there. To the extent that they're there to hide the patio, the proposed patio, the pergola, that's not really the intent. It's just to beautify the backyard. But again, the pergola itself it's an open air structure. It's not so much that a neighbor is going to be staring at a wall. Essentially, they'll see through it. There is no roof. It's just boards placed more or less 1 to 2 feet on center across some beams. So, but there is some opportunity to do some plantings in the backyard.
I was even back in the front yard. I was even thinking, but that's it for me for now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Behrens. Mr. Flores.
Good evening, everybody. Again, I want to touch on the stormwater management. Like the applicant engineer mentioned, yes, we recommended to use a 3 inches rainfall event, and the proposed seepage speed provides roughly like 988 gallons, and if we use a 3 inches rainstorm, he needs like around 820 gallons. So he have more than sufficient capacity, with the proposed seepage speed in the backyard. Another thing I want to touch in this area is that the ditch that is behind the house is the oak ditch. and the borough lately has been spending a lot of money trying to improve, the capacity of the oak ditch. And I'm not too concerned about the house having the seepage pit in that area because it's going to overflow into this ditch and it ultimately going to go into the Hackensack River. The only thing I will have one question for the engineer. Can you walk me through the grading in the backyard? I just want, because it's very hard for me to understand the existing grading and the proposed grading in the backyard. I mean, if you can just point it out where, where the existing 97 counter, 98 counter are in comparison to the proposed one.
Yes, the existing 97 contour pretty much remains unchanged. It's along the back property line. If you're starting the northwest corner, the 97 contour is crosses right over the rear property line, kind of runs parallel to the property line, and then stays just inside the rear fence. That's going to remain unchanged. We are going to slightly increase the grade. The existing 98 contour essentially cuts across the middle of the backyard from left to right. We're just pushing it back slightly. So we'll be changing the grade less than a foot at the highest point back there to create a more level area, more usable area. But in general, it's a very flat yard. And when we're all done with this project, it'll remain a very flat yard.
Okay. All right. So for the board clarification, so the new proposed grading is not altering where the existing runoff is going. It's still going towards the, I would say this is the southwest corner. So that's not going to change. It's going to remain the same. The other comment I do have for you and the applicant is that the 6-foot vinyl fence is encroaching within the with the border right away, and that's not within the property line. So if a tree falls down there and it breaks the fence, the town's not going to be responsible to fix that fence. So and I don't know if the board is gonna want you to move that fence back to the property line. That I will leave that to the board, but just something that they should be aware of that. Other than that, I have no other comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Flores. I'm going to open it to comments or questions from the board. Ms. Boland, if I may, I'll start with you.
Yes, my only comment is I appreciate that the property owner worked with the advice of Mr. Adler. We do feel strongly about the 40%. And as I know it was difficult, as you explained, that having the lot coverage already at 26%, you didn't have a lot of leeway with a full driveway, which we encourage. So I don't have a problem with this proposed improvements for a rear yard patio because of the fact that it's not over the 40% threshold that we as a board choose to go by.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Boland. Mr. Pfeffer.
Yes, I was going to say something similar to Ms. Boland. So I will just second what she said and thank the applicant for being flexible and scaling back some of your earlier plans. I think that's beneficial to the community. And I have no questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Cray.
Yeah, two questions. One, the lot size.
Hey, Mike, we're getting a whole lot of feedback from you.
How's this? Better?
No, I'm still getting it. All right. I'll let you work on the technical side of things. I'll continue on down the line. I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Mr. Gibbons.
As Ms. Boland had said, I do appreciate you trying to scale this back, but we are also looking at an oversized lot that we're now overdeveloping. I'm a little concerned. You use the word modest, but I do think this is a pretty good sized patio. There is a patio underneath the pergola. Is that correct?
Yes.
You know, so we are talking about adding, what is the number? 400 square feet or 500 square feet of patio. This is an oversized lot. And, you know, we're going to 40 on an oversized lot and a humongous house. So I am a little concerned about adding more coverage with a very large house, and going to 40%. Do you have you looked at any smaller versions of the patio / pergola?
I don't think it's really so much the pergola, but more of the patio area. So if you can see on the site plan where the pavers that are adjacent to the back of the house, it's not a large area. So the square above that is really more for just seating. You know, not much else.
I'm just looking at, we have an oversized property, you know, 75 by 100 is our typical lot, and you're 1,300 feet over that. I personally think that's a lot of coverage for an oversized lot.
But isn't it dependent on the percentage of the lot, what we're talking about?
It is, but we're covering more space. So it's the law is 35%. So, you know, we're asking to go over that on an oversized lot. So on a typical lot, if you were to go to 40, you're not covering as much as you are on an oversized lot. So if you're on a smaller lot, your 40% would not be as much of an impact on the town, you know, and the amount that we're covering. So that's, you know, I do have a concern. I would personally rather see those spaces smaller. I know 40 is our unofficial usual number on a normal size lot. You know, but personally, I think it's a bit much. And I think personally, I think it could be scaled down to make it a little less coverage on an oversized lot.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Mr. Crane, we come back to you.
How's that? Sound better? Still
I'm still
bad.
getting, no, I'm still getting an echo.
You have your phone and your computer going, Mr. Cray?
Yeah.
No. I'm just on the computer.
The whole night you've been echoing.
Yeah.
Speaker. Is it still echoing?
Yeah.
Mr. Craig, do you have two, like a desktop and a laptop open simultaneously?
No, I just have my laptop open on the phone. And. Does that make any difference at all?
No, I'm still hearing an echo.
I wonder if I should do this in dial-up.
Might I suggest that, Mr. Cray, you close all your devices and sign back in?
Yeah.
Yep. I will give that a shot. Hold on one sec.
Okay. Okay, let me move on then. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I have to echo Mr. Gibbons' concerns. 40% is not a number that we are obligated to. In fact, no number above 35. This is a south part of town that floods on a pretty regular basis. We have serious flooding issues in town. We've just spent several $1 million trying to address one of the problems in the middle of the town. And I'm also concerned about, and we have to be concerned about your neighbors and the area. So 40% on an oversized lot translates into a tremendous amount of impervious lot coverage. So I have a concern about that, and I hope that you can redo that. Also, as the mayor of the town, I have to say that the fence needs to be moved and has to be agreed to, or I could not vote yes. Because you have to stay, your fence has to stay within the property line. And I hope you might be able to accommodate that as a change. I think it's a beautiful improvement. I think it's be good for the town. I'm just hoping that you can consider reducing it a little bit and by any way you see possible. And of course, I hope you can agree to move the fence because the fence must stay on your property line. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Cray,
I am back.
and you're
Is that
not
it?
echoing. Welcome back.
I feel so much better now.
With that, I'll turn the floor to you, Mr. Cray. Questions and comments?
Okay, thank you. I agree generally with Mr. Gibbons. I'm a little concerned that we have an oversized lot and we are, looking at that 40% because, and I'll ask the homeowner, again, the kind of the criteria for allowing the variance is that either there's a public good, some improvement, to the town in general, or there's a hardship, and that hardship obviously could be a small lot, an irregularly shaped lot. But I don't think that's a condition here. I know you mentioned stormwater, retention being put in, but that's really just to address the potential impact of the changes that you're proposing of having the 40% coverage. So there's not really an improvement there. There's just, you're creating a condition that you're addressing. So I guess I'd like to hear either, how you perceive the public good on this or what hardship we're trying to address. Because without, some argument there, I agree with Mr. Gibbons that at that size lot to go to the 40% coverage gives me a little bit of hesitation.
Sure. I mean, I think being in an oversized lot, we purchased this home. We didn't, the builders, as Mr. Hauser was actually addressing earlier, had built the house to the maximum coverage. So we were not left with any room to have any hardscape in the backyard. And the hardship is we don't have any space in the backyard currently to do anything. During the summers, I keep my barbecue or my grill in my garage and I have to roll it out to my driveway to grill my food. So, I think that should be, heavily considered, saying that I would say that the majority of River Edge has some sort of backyard area.
But as I'm looking at this, I'm trying to get a sense of the pergola space is 236 square feet. So I'm assuming that's somewhere around 20 by 24 by 10, right? Something like that.
That would be incredibly large. I would say more along the lines of 12 by 12.
Well, 12 by 12.
15 by 17, I think is what Mr. Hauser had mentioned earlier.
That's the pergola?
Yes. Or the pavers or the pergola is what you're talking about.
Well, I was asking about the pergola to start.
Yeah, pergola, I believe Mr. Hauser had said that it's 15 by 17.
Roughly, yes.
15 by 17. And then the patio is how large?
I don't think it's much larger than that. I think I'm going to have to defer to Mr. Hauser on the measurements.
It's 22 by 11, but of that patio, part of it is occupied by the existing steps that come down, which will be refurbished to be consistent with the style of the patio hardscape. And of that, there's an approximate 3.5 foot counter space that serves as an outdoor kitchen right up against the dwelling. So of that really, after you take out that counter space and you take out the stairs, the effective patio area there is roughly 15.
I don't know
15
why,
by 8, 15 by 8.
I don't know why you take out the counter space. That's part of the amenity.
Yes, I mean, that if it wasn't a built-in hardscape feature, would it be a grill or something of that sort? What I'm saying is like usable patio space to be able to put a picnic table, a lounge, an outdoor patio set of some sorts.
Right, but you're using it as two separate spaces. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about a backyard amenity, and you split it into two, but when you add it all up, you're up at 450 square feet. It's large. And I guess I agree with Mr. Gibbons. I'd love to see some thought given to maybe bringing that down a little bit and getting that improved lot coverage down below 40. We tend to move to that as a maximum when there is a standard or undersized lot, or there's an irregular sized lot, or there's some other hardship. We don't really have the hardship here. It's so, I think I'd like to see some thought given to that, and maybe some movement on it. And I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Craig. Councilman Glass.
I do have a question. Jason, I thought I heard there was some discussion about what was being used for design storm. I heard 3 inches. Is there some disagreement on what should be used for design storm?
No, I was just going based on when the engineers, our letter recommends to use 3 inch storm, which represents roughly 100-year storm event. And so right now we're getting like 100-year storm like so often. So, but they provide calculations based on a 10-year storm. So instead of they using 3 inches, they use 1 inch. But even if they use 3 inches, they have the capacity to take that in consideration.
Okay.
However, they just
So the
addressing.
design is adequate for a 3 inch storm?
Correct. The design is adequate for the 100-year storm. Yeah.
And it says, I'm not clear, these chambers, these stormwater recharge chambers, are they actual recharge or are they retention?
No, so what they do, water goes in there and they will infiltrate into the soil and it will seepage through the lowest point. In this case, will be the ditch in the backyard.
So we expect drainage to occur into the soil with the river a few feet from the property
Correct. So
line?
that's another comment in our letter. In order to make sure that this is gonna work, they're supposed to provide some soil testing in order to make sure that the soil meets the minimum seepage standard rate of otherwise it's not going to work. So
that testing and adequate results would be critical path to approval.
Yes, it will. However, let me point that out because you are so close to an open ditch in the backyard. So regardless of that, even if the system fails, it's going to overflow and it's going to go into the ditch and it's not going to affect anybody. So at that point, it's just more like if it's going to affect somebody, it's not going to affect anybody. So at this point, even if it fails and overflows, it's not going to affect anybody because it's going to go into the ditch. And then it's going to go into,
the drainage inlets wouldn't allow for water to run into the chamber, right? Water would seek the level and we would have
right. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to point out that in that stormwater design, we chose this chamber product because it's a shallower solution. With the gravel underneath, we need less than 4 feet of depth, as opposed to perhaps a more traditional concrete dry well that would have an equivalent capacity but might be 6 feet deep.
No, I get it. I understand that, but the new regulations just came in, and you gotta be above 2 feet above,
Yes.
system of groundwater table. So regardless of that, you need to identify that. And with the proximity of the ditch, the groundwater table in that area is on your high. So that's why we put that comment on the letter. So just so you take that in consideration as well.
Okay, Mr. Busty,
Oh, you're on mute.
you're on mute.
So yeah, no questions. I had to step out there for 10
Okay.
minutes. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Merman.
Yes. I have a question for our planner. Your review letter, comment number 5, referred to cooking adjacent to the building. Has that been resolved?
Well, not being the construction official, I don't know, the building code requirements for, let's say, a grill against the house. The assumption is that if the board approves the plan as proposed or some form of the plan as proposed, the next step would be to get permits for this, and the permits would require that they meet the building code. So, I think the applicant is aware of that. He suggested that there may be some materials that could be used so that this is practical the way it's proposed. I don't have the answer to that, is the question.
Okay.
So is a question more for the applicant's information that he consider that.
Okay, very good. I also have a question for Costa Engineering. Jason, on your report, under miscellaneous comments, item B, you have a sentence regarding fencing and reference a pool. And then on the next sheet, you discuss the fence being on the property. When I review this, it looks like item B doesn't belong in there. Is that correct?
Give me 1 second. Let me just double check that for you.
It's at the bottom of the page.
Fence appears to be crossed over the property line. Correct. Okay. So that. Oh no. That's part of the comment B. So it is part of the comment B. It's just outline. It's just pointing that out that the existing fence on the property is encroaching within the border right away, which is part of the ditch with the oak ditch.
That's not what I said. Item B refers to existing fencing gates are to be upgraded to pool compliant and so on.
Correct.
And so forth. That doesn't apply in this case. What I'm suggesting is that should be deleted.
Oh yeah, okay, I see, understand what
I
you're saying.
know
Yes,
what you
correct.
mean.
Yep, no, I understand. Yes, that's gonna be deleted. It's gonna be revised.
Okay.
Yes, because there is no
All
pool
right.
proposal. There's
Yes,
no proposal of any pool.
Yeah, I
Yes,
just-
you're right.
Obviously, you guys can surmise that was from a previous version when we did have a pool on this plan, and it just, the note accidentally was not changed to remove
Correct.
that.
Okay.
Correct.
So the one that applies is the fact that the existing fence, half of it goes on borough property. And
Yes, correct.
I fully agree that with the mayor and good planning, that the fence that is currently within the borough property must be removed to receive my vote. All right, that's a conditional. Other comment I have is I totally agree with the coverage. And I totally agree with the point that Mr. Cray makes, where you're taking patio and pergola and have independent areas. I see no reason why you can't combine those to achieve less than 40%. And I've been looking for you to do that also to obtain my vote. Other than that, the rest of my concerns have been covered, about especially the excessive coverage up to 40%. And with that, I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Merman. At this time, I think we're going to, do we have anybody in the public, Marina?
Yes, we do.
Okay, let's open to the public for comment on this application only. Again, just as a reminder, the application that we're hearing right now is 216 Lozier Terrace. Take a motion to open to the public, please, on this application.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Givens. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, at this time, we're now open to the public for comment on this application. Alone, again, this is 216 Lozier Terrace. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to be heard on this application?
It looks like one person did have their hand raised previously. Okay. So if you can unmute yourself and please state your name and address for the record. Alice, hello, can you hear me?
Do they have to be brought in as a panelist, perhaps?
They should be able to speak. So if you have your mic, there we go, connecting to audio. All right, please state your name and address for the record, and then you can provide your comment.
I think she's having audio problems.
Yeah, I can't.
I can see her as a panel. Yeah, it keeps saying
Yeah,
connected.
they're connected to audio now. Alice, can you hear us?
Not hear you.
Might
If you-
suggest logging out and logging back in. Ms.
Yep, you
Malone.
could try to log out
Yeah.
and back in or call in with the number. One of the phone numbers on the agenda. Oh, and she dropped off,
It
but
dropped off. She may be
if
trying to-
anyone else, there's still 4 other members of the public. If you're interested in commenting on this application, you can press the raise hand button on Zoom, or if you're calling in, dial *9. There is one phone call. Listener.
I'm just trying to give her a few seconds to dial back in here.
Yeah. They haven't returned to
Yeah, I'll
the
give it one more minute and then we'll carry forward.
Is Ed still on? No.
Yeah, Ed's here.
Oh, he's right there. Ed, did this person reach out to you about commenting at all?
No,
Okay.
I had nobody from the public reach out to me.
Okay. All right, at this time, we need to proceed. If there's no further members in attendance, no members of the public in attendance who wish to be heard on this application, I'll look to the board then for a motion to close to the public, please.
So moved. Gibbons.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed, any abstain? Okay, at this time, we now stand closed to the public on this application. Mr. Hauser, you and the applicant, you've heard the comments from the board. At this time, I want to make sure that before we proceed further, if there is any interest that you have in considering what the comments that have been presented are, whether you want to take an opportunity to reconsider the application and what's being proposed here in terms of scale and size, and or alternatively, we can move on. We can also poll the board, as I think most of the board members have indicated their positions and level of support for the application at the as currently proposed. But rather than have you go forward, if you feel that you'd like to reconsider the project, and we can carry your application to another meeting, give you that opportunity, but I'll offer that to you.
I just wanted to address the issue with the fence. I just wanted to state that there was actually an existing chain link fence before, and all we did was follow, the same line of that chain link fence that was already there from the previous home.
That's understood, but it's still in the wrong place. So that's the outcome on that, unfortunately. But so gentlemen, I give you that. I offer that to you as an option this evening. As I say, if you'd like to go back, reconsider the scale and come back with a modified proposal based on what you've heard this evening. I'll let you respond to that, or if you want us, we can certainly continue.
I just want to
on.
talk about the two separate spaces that were created in this backyard, and they do serve a purpose. First and foremost, coming out of the house with those existing stairs, as it is, there's only about a 3.5 foot landing space at the bottom of those steps, and that patio that's closest to the house, we just carried that line straight across to create a space where he could do his outdoor cooking. So the applicant doesn't have to wheel his grill out of his garage and cook in his driveway. It's not a tremendous amount of space right there. And we did disconnect it on purpose to try to save on the impervious coverage. In the different iterations of getting to this point, it doesn't make a lot of sense to put a 2 or 3 foot strip between two hardscape areas, but we did that intentionally to try to stay under that target of the 40% threshold. So there were a lot of decisions made here to achieve that area, that 40% target. We could have easily connected that. The patio could have expanded beyond the pergola space, but it was intentionally done that way to create two separate areas. One where there can be some food prep, and another area where people could stay away from the grill and the heat and the smoke, and enjoy the outdoors during as a normal barbecue functions. I just wanted to point that out. It wasn't that he wants all these different areas. We arrived at that through our effort to get under that 40% threshold and cut it really to the minimum. There's not a lot of room once you get down those steps. You're stepping right there, basically off into the lawn area. And the distance between the bottom of the steps and that pergola is only 5 feet. So in terms of moving the pergola to even closer to the house, now you're getting into that cooking area. There's not a lot that can be done other than just making things smaller, which really restricts how you can enjoy the space. You put a picnic table out there that has 8 chairs around it, you're going to eat up 80% of that pergola area. There's not much left after you factor all that in. And you factor in the columns with the pergola and all that. So I certainly understand and appreciate the board's comments and concerns, especially in light of what's transpired in the last 48 hours. But we're talking about pavers here for the patio, which they're still impervious. There is a drainage component to it. Some infiltrates down through some of the cracks. Right now, it's proposed as a concrete pad under the pergola, but I'm sure the homeowner would be open to doing some type of pavers there as well, if it would satisfy them. But there's really just not that much room. I mean, could we make it a foot shorter? I don't know if that would satisfy the board enough and achieve my client's objective here. So I don't want you to think he threw all this out there and just is asking at a long wish list. There was initially a very grand wish list. And unfortunately, the average homeowner, when they're purchasing properties, they go look at spaces, they think they can do certain things. And then, he engaged a landscape architect, spent a considerable amount of money preparing renderings and all this, and then came to me. And that's when we raised some red flags and said, we can propose this, but I don't think it's going to happen. And through that effort, we whittled it down to the plan you're looking at right now. So I don't know if the applicant is able or willing to reduce this further to the point that it would satisfy the board members and serve his needs as a homeowner. But I'll let the applicant make that decision.
I'm really hoping we can move forward. I obviously don't want to go through this again. This is a long time coming. Like I said, we've moved in a couple of years ago. So what conditions do the board members feel like we should come to get the approval? I just like to know.
Might I make a suggestion?
Sure.
You mentioned obviously everyone wants to have backyard space, and we get that, and we want you to have backyard space. I would suggest if the patio area is for cooking, you really don't need a patio underneath you to cook. If it's a space for your grill, and I don't know what else is in there, so if there's a sink or whatever, you don't need extra hardscape outside of that. So I would suggest, basically eliminating the patio area around that cooking space and have your pergola. I think for me, that would, basically cut this in half and make this more in line of what would be acceptable at 40% on a 7,500 square foot lot. And it still keeps your people away from the smoke of cooking, gives you that distance, gives you your space to put your table. If that's the idea, if that's just your cooking area, then, you really don't need 242 square feet to cook in. So that would be my personal suggestion.
The cooking area, or where the kitchen is adjacent to the house, was really for purposes of having a grill that can be hooked up to the gas line that's actually right on the corner of the back of the house. And also the paver area right in front of the kitchen would be where we would put a dining table, and under the pergola would have been where we put just general seating. So that's the main reason for the design of the way that things fit in. Yeah.
And that patio also serves as a landing to those steps, which he currently does not have.
I understand all that. I think you have enough space to sit and grill without both patios, personally.
I think as you're looking at the design, it really looks at like two different patios. If we had just made just one square that's adjacent to the house, maybe that probably would have looked a little different. Just as Mr. Hauser was saying, the reason that the design was that way is because we were trying to to minimize the impervious coverage and also to have the pergola just by itself. So if, let's say I designed or we designed just one big square and, you know, looking at it, we were actually, it says concrete pad, but we were talking with a contractor and we both agreed that everything should just be one piece instead of separate. And it should just all be, you know, pavers. So it technically is one piece. It's not really two separate areas.
It's not that it's two areas, it's the amount of space that you're covering. And it's not that it's concrete, it's impervious coverage. So
I know
for me, it doesn't matter that there are two spaces. It's the coverage. It's the amount that we're covering the property.
So what coverage would you be comfortable with?
I just made my suggestion, you know, of eliminate what is now the paver patio area and keep the pergola and keep the kitchen.
So the kitchen's going to sit on grass?
No, that area would be whatever square footage that is, eliminate the pavers and keep the pergola. That would be my suggestion.
So keep the patio where the kitchen is at, and then
No, not that. Whatever square footage the actual kitchen takes up.
Okay.
Is
Take away-
impervious coverage because it's
Okay.
it's counter, it's granite, it's whatever it is. Eliminate those pavers and keep the pergola. And you have a place to sit, you have a place to be away from the sun, have your table, eat, spend time with your family, whatever, underneath that pergola. I'm not speaking for anyone else on the board. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Dunn.
I can explain to the applicant the process of if we carry the application, and then they could come back if that's okay.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that because it seems that I think that's probably the best alternative at this point. But please proceed.
So at this point, you've heard what the board members have had to say, the recommendations. You can review your notes with your engineer, and if you'd like, we can carry this application to the board's next meeting. With that, you won't have to notice anyone else. You won't have to publish the newspaper again. We'll just carry it on the record. That'll give you a couple weeks for you to look over, see if you can make any changes, look over the engineer's report to see if what you can respond to in that, and then you can come back if you're interested in that. Or if not, you can go forward with the application tonight, taking everything what the board said. But if the board makes a decision on the application tonight, that's what the decision is going to be.
Stanley, can I just tell you that the next meeting has a full packed schedule as well? We'd have to carry it again to the second meeting coming up.
Okay, that's what same
Just
same
wanted
idea
to
though.
be aware.
Okay. Thank you.
So just to be clear, if we allow the board to move forward and vote, and if I get denied tonight, you're saying that I have to go through this whole variance process again, correct?
Well, if you got denied, that would be the decision of the board, and you wouldn't be able to, whatever design that was denied would not be able to come back before the board. If you'd made changes, that would be a different story. But you'd have to go through the whole process.
Okay, just give me 1 second.
And Mr. Chairman, we do have the member of the public who raised their hand before is here.
Okay. Well, we'll have to reopen to the public then, but I don't want to distract the applicant right now.
Can I just have 1 second to confer with Mr. Hauser?
Yeah, before you do that though, I want to open to the public quickly.
Sure.
So can I have a motion to open to the public, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cray. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Boland. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, we're now open to the public again, just on this application. It looks like Alice Malone, you're back.
And please state your name and address for the record. Still cannot hear you. You can type your question in the chat if you still can't get your microphone to work. Just says connecting to audio, but
Yeah. All right. There are some technical issues happening here that unfortunately we're not going to. Alice Malone, can you hear us? We cannot hear you.
if you're on a computer, you can type your comment into the chat function of Zoom. Still not connecting.
No. All right. Unfortunately, we're going to have to move on. I'll look for a motion to close to the public at this time.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ball. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cray. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstained. Okay, we're now closed to the public again for this application alone. I'll come back to Mr. Hauser and the applicant. Don't know if you've made a decision as to whether or not you're going to proceed or you're going to look like us to carry the application.
I was going to ask if we would be able to have a straw poll that if we do reduce to 39%, it would reduce the patio by 5 feet. Would the board likely be favorable of that?
So you'd like us to poll the board if a 39% coverage?
Yeah, so reducing it by the patio by 5 feet, if the board would be favorable to that idea, because we really don't want to have to go through this again.
Well,
we're trying our best to.
Well, just appreciate what Ms. Steinle explained to you before. If we carry your application, it does not mean you have to renotice the public. It means you come back at the next available meeting to be heard again. Okay. There's no notice requirement that you don't have to submit anything else unless you amend your plans. But if you go through the process this evening and the board makes a decision, that's the decision that the board renders and as to this application. If you do make any changes, you'll have to go back through the process again of renoticing and resubmitting plans. So just to make sure you're clear on that.
I'm clear, so that's why the decision isn't as easy as or I guess as I want it to be.
Yeah, that's why I would suggest that if you probably better serve going back with your engineer and considering what the feedback from the board has been this evening and.
No, we've certainly heard the feedback, and I think it would be helpful if we understand how much we need to scale this back. We've had mixed feedback. We've had several members seem favorable with the 40%. We've had several that said reduce it something. So I agree. I think the applicant is agreeing to do some type of reduction here. We just want to know how far we have to reduce it. He's willing to give a concession here to make it smaller. If the board was able to vote on a conditional approval that it's reduced to 39% tonight, that would be fantastic. If not, at least it would give us feedback that we can revise these plans and give something to you that you can look at and we can feel good about when we come back in front of the board.
Okay. we will poll the board in that case. Let me
Mr.
start with,
Castle, before we pull the board, could I ask a question?
yes, sir.
Would 1% be equivalent to 87.81 square feet? Is that correct?
Mr. Hauser?
I believe so.
So 2% would be about 180, 190 square feet.
Yes.
And if you reduce it by 5 feet, is that 5 feet by 11 that you're reducing it by? Which would not be 87, it would be 55.
Yeah, it would be roughly 5 to 6 feet by the 15-foot width is what I was looking at.
I thought the width, oh, so the smaller
The
one.
pergola.
The pergola, so it would be 5 feet.
And perhaps I could, with the patio up against the house, I still need that landing at the bottom of the steps, but perhaps I could shave back the other side of it, parallel to the side property line a little bit to get that 1% reduction.
I don't know his phone number. Oh, I can look it up.
Well,
Danielle.
Thank you.
okay, let me poll the board then if I can. Ms. Boland, I will start with you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pfeffer,
I hate to do this to you. Can we be clear on what we're being polled on now? Because
whether the board would be in support of an application seeking instead of a 40% proposed maximum approved lot coverage, whether 39% would be something that the board might vote in favor of.
And do we have clarity or agreement on how much square footage that would be?
I believe we just, Mr. Hauser, I think that was the question the mayor just asked Mr. Hauser.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm not sure we had a clear number.
Right, well,
It's 87.9 square feet.
it is 1%.
1%.
That's what we would reduce, yes.
Yeah, because the lot size is 8,790, so 1% would be 87 point, roughly 88 feet.
Thank you.
Also, Mr. Castellan, I would want to be polled that this would include moving the fence within the property lines.
Okay. So to be clear, the poll question that we are putting to the board at this time is whether you would find support for an application at 39% maximum approved lot coverage, as well as a requirement to relocate the existing fence at the rear property line. Okay, so let's start the polling. Ms. Boland, may I start with you?
So I was the first, I started last time and I learned a lot from my fellow board members, and I have a lot of respect for a lot of their comments. So I agree with a lot of what they said, even though I know initially I mentioned the 40%, but once again, the board members have put forward a lot of good comments. So I would like it reduced as well, whether it's 38 or 39. I would defer to the rest of the board.
By the candle.
But I agree that it should be reduced at this point.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Boland. I'm going to turn to Mr. Gibbons.
I honestly, I would prefer 100 feet, whatever percentage number that is. So at 1%, 87.9 feet, I would vote no.
Okay. Mr. Pfeffer?
Once again, I'll repeat what I said earlier, that I felt that the applicant was being flexible in scaling down its original plans and expectations, and now he's scaling it down further. So I would have to support that effort, recognizing that he's very confined in his options. And, I've said it before, I'll keep saying it. I really think we have to address this issue of the overbuilding on these lots. but that's for a later date. So I
Okay.
would support the application with these modifications.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor?
I think I would prefer 88.5, I'm sorry, 38, but I could live with 39. And of course, all the expectations that of water management that Costa Associates might deem appropriate.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilman Glass?
Yeah, I would support it with the changes. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Busty?
Yeah, I would be supportive at the 39% and the other items mentioned.
Mr. Cray?
I would probably grudgingly approve it at 39. I would do a little more, I can't think of the right word, but if, as Mr. Gibbons said, if they could look down to 100 feet, that'd be great.
Okay, Mr. Merman?
Yes, I agree with the mayor. The applicant is making an effort to reduce it. I can live with the 39% and the fence definitely being removed from borough property. So I would say yes to that.
Okay. Gentlemen, you've heard the perspective of the board at this point. How would you like to proceed? Would you like us to move forward with a decision on the application this evening, or would you prefer to reconvene and for us to carry it to a later meeting?
Sorry, that question was for me.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I was kind of my wife was talking to me. Sorry. I think we'd have to agree with that. I mean,
so you would
looks
be
like he wants to say
you'd be
something.
agreeable at a 39, reducing to 39% coverage
I have no
Moving
choice
the
at this
fence.
point.
with the fence moving and the storm.
Yep.
water.
Yes, I think we'd like a vote on the request with the conditions that the maximum improved lot coverage not exceed 39%, and that the condition that the applicant agrees to relocate his fence in conformance with the town's regulations on fence location on the property.
Mr. Merman, I thought you have your hand raised. Do you want to say something?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. All right.
I think just to interrupt, Jason has his hand raised, and
Yes.
then our member of the public was able to type in the comment. I can just read it into the record.
Okay.
So Alice Malone stated, my only concern is any impact on the ditch. Every year, more and more of my side of the ditch is washing away. This year, again, has been the rains. This year, the ground is very saturated and the sump works almost constantly. So I think the concerns are about stormwater and drainage.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Stiley. Mr. Flores?
Can I make just one comment? It's just a suggestion for the board. Since everybody's agreeing that they can go with the 39%, then the 1% is equal to roughly 87, 88. Let's round it off. It's 88 square feet. I suggest that the applicant take that square footage out of the pergola, so that way the variance on the accessory buildings gets rid of it, which is also a benefit of. So because if the coverage for the accessory building is 150 square feet, then he is not going to require that variance anymore.
Mr. Hauser?
Is
That
that
is a good,
acceptable?
that is a good point. I'll leave that up to my applicant. If he wants all 87.9 square feet removed from the pergola, that essentially shortens it up from the 17-foot width to a little over 11, to be like 11 by 15. That would eliminate, if we shrunk the pergola down, because in theory, we could have a pergola that's greater than the size of the patio and still seek that variance, but I'll leave that up to the applicant.
Would you, I don't know if you would be amenable to a 13 by 13 pergola,
Yeah.
which would make it 169 square feet, which is 19 square feet above the 150.
Yeah, I think we'd prefer to have the condition reduce it to the 39%, and we will comply, but still continue to seek the variance for the larger pergola, which doesn't really have an impact on runoff or stormwater, which is a legitimate concern in this area.
Further comments, questions from the board? All right. In that case, I will look to the board for a motion on this application, please.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Regarding 216 Loza Terrace, River Edge, I'll make a motion that the Land Use Board of River Edge grant the following variances. Hold on, let me flip the page here. That the maximum lot coverage of 25 feet be increased. Now that's going to reduce that lot coverage, will it not? Be reduced to, it was 28.7. That the maximum improved lot coverage, allowable being 35%, will now be increased to a maximum of 39%. And that the accessory structure area, maximum normal is 150 square feet, and that the applicant requests 236.2 square feet maximum. Further, that the applicant's fencing within the borough property be removed and relocated off the borough property, and that the applicant has agreed to that. Further, the applicant adhere and resolve the comments presented by Costa Engineering. I think I got most of it, if not all of it.
I only had two other items to also comply with the board planner's letter regarding, these are already a standard condition to comply with the building code, but I'll just put that in there to be specific. Right. And then also the compliance with the maximum height of the accessory structure.
Accepted.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. Steinle, when you're ready.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Bastide.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Congratulations,
Yes.
gentlemen.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you very much. We really appreciate all the board members and professionals working with us on this to get this done this evening. Thank you.
Best of luck in your project.
Thank you.
Thank
you. All right. Moving along, our next agenda item for this evening under new business, the applicant is Jenny Castaneda Tam. Property is 429 Windsor Road, block 809, lot 25. Application for proposed renovation to dwelling, patio, pool, and driveway extension with a rebuild on an existing foundation and a 2-story addition seeking variance relief. I believe we have the applicant here this evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Do you have any professionals in attendance as well with you?
Yes, I'm here. I'm the architect.
Okay. Ms. Steinle, if you would do the formalities, swearing in.
Yes, hello. So if you, whoever is going to be providing testimony, please raise your right hand. So do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and the applicant, if you could please just state your name and provide your address for the record.
Sure. Jenny Castaneda, and I live at 429 Windsor Road, River Edge, New Jersey.
Thank you. And then the architect, if you please state your name, spell your last name, provide your business address for the record, and provide the board with your background, experience, licensure.
Michael Capo, C-A-P-O, 1037 Route 46, Suite G5, Clifton, New Jersey. I obtained my bachelor's degree of architecture from the University of Notre Dame. Have been practicing in the state of New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and Florida for several years. And I've testified in boards in all of those states.
And you're a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, and it's in good current standing.
Thank you.
Have you appeared before us before, Mr. Capo?
A long time ago.
Okay. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Capo and his qualifications from the board? Okay. If the applicant and the architect, if you would kindly summarize the scope of your project that you're proposing and the relief that you're seeking from the board this evening.
Sure. Mike, why don't I start off and then I'll hand it over to you.
Sure, go for it.
Okay. I live here with my husband, Alfredo Castaneda, and we have 2 young kids who are in elementary school. We bought this house around 5 years ago. It is a 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 full bath, and 2 half. One of the half is in a basement, an unfinished basement. You can imagine the difficulty of getting ready with 4 people in the morning. Sometimes I do have my mother here to help care for the kids, so that's sometimes 5 people sharing 1 bathroom. Our rooms here are quite small with small closet. We bought the house as is. Probably hasn't been touched since the 70s or 80s. So this house might have worked back then, but it is not working for a family of 4 right now in 2024. So with that being said, I'll let Mike go over the details of our plan. Thanks.
Okay. So what we intend on doing is keeping the existing foundation of the existing house. And if you look on the site plan, you'll see the gray shaded area, which is going to indicate the new addition, which would be just a 1-story addition. However, there will be a 2nd floor addition that will be built over the entire existing and new 1st floor addition, which is indicated by the cross-hatched area. In addition to some site improvements, we're going to be removing the walkway and stair in the front, expanding the driveway, keeping an existing walkway that attaches to the driveway and extends towards the rear, and proposing a new pavered pool, a pavered patio, and a new pool. There was a large existing piece of slate in the back that we will be removing. That's approximately 260 square feet. As far as the floor plans go, just zoom out here. The basement additions are all going to be unexcavated, so it's not going to be an extension to the basement at all. It's just going to be a crawl space. The 1st floor addition is going to consist of expanding the existing kitchen, adding a pantry and mudroom, a full bathroom, and a bedroom, and then reconfiguring the existing stairs in order to create a more open floor plan. The 2nd floor is entirely new. It's a completely new 2nd floor addition. It's going to consist of 2 bedrooms, an office, a full bath, master bedroom suite with a master bathroom and a walk-in closet. Exterior improvements, we're going to be replacing all of the siding, all of the roofing, with horizontal siding on the majority of the house, standing seam siding in the eaves, and trim and standing seam metal roofs above the in the eaves and above the front porch. And that we're going to carry around the entire house with the same language, with the board and batten in the eaves and the horizontal siding on the sides and the front, with a nice stone base to just pull it all together. Let me get back to the Zoom. And that concludes that presentation.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to turn first to Mr. Barron's, please.
Sure, good evening. I guess just a few comments and observations. One, the first comment would just be, if the board approves this or some form of this, when you submit for permits, you would need to provide height calculations in accordance with the borough's definition of height, just to confirm that the proposed dwelling in addition conform to the maximum 30-foot height requirement that's spelled out in the ordinance.
The height requirement should have been on drawing A2, right next on elevation.
If I looked over that, I apologize. Let's see. All right, well, let's see. So I guess the question would be if you calculated it in accordance with the ordinance, meaning did you do it 6 feet from the corners of the building or just the spots at the corners?
I just did it at the corners.
Right, so, okay, so when you go, again, if this moves forward in this form or some form, you would have to just provide that to the building department. I don't think we need to resolve that now, but the dwelling would have to comply with the maximum height requirement, or you'd have to come back to the board. I think what would help with the board, and if you were, observing the prior application, obviously the variance relief being sought, or at least one of the variances, pertains to coverage. And I think what would help us understand the various components of this, which include the pool, patio, driveway, porch, addition, et cetera, is if you could somehow itemize or break this down, and so we can understand the individual components. I suspect that, the 45% may not be the number the board is comfortable with. So again, I think helping to understand what the breakdown is gets the board to understand the big picture.
Sure. So start with the pavered patio and pool in the back is 1,106 square feet.
Mr. Capo, sorry to interrupt you, but if you want to share your screen, if that's easier for you, that's fine, no problem there. Or if you want to just keep going the way you have, that works too.
No, I can share it. Everybody see it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So this would be the new pavered patio and pool, which totals 1,106 square feet.
Can you parse out the pool from that? Again, I just want to be as specific as we can just to expedite this.
Yeah, pool is 15 by 25. 375 square feet for the pool. So the patio would be 731 square feet. The existing walkway is this little curved portion here that comes up, and then back here is 143 square feet. This is the existing driveway, which is 402 square feet, and this dotted area is the new driveway extension. We brought it to 18 feet wide, and the driveway extension itself is 158 square feet. The way to get up to the front porch is right here, so that gave us the opportunity to actually put a large planter across the entire front of the front porch. The front porch is covered. That comes in at 140 square feet. And then you have the existing dwelling, which is 1,011 square feet. Plus the shaded area, which is the addition of 372 square feet. And then the pool, the condensing unit and pool equipment slab at 40. So those are all the impervious areas.
All right, thank you for that. I'll just, it's, what's interesting about this is that the actually the lot coverage or the building coverage is at 20%, where 25% is allowed. So it seems like what's driving the coverage in this case is a lot of the, what I'll call, non-structural components, even though that may not be an appropriate term, but basically the exterior improvements. Why don't we touch it, because there's a number of variances involved. Why don't we touch on the side yard variance and why the design ended up where you have, on the one hand, we'll call it the left side or the east side of the house, you have an existing setback of 4.7 feet. You have a non-conforming setback to the west side or the right side that's 5.2 feet. Can you help us understand how you arrived at that?
Yeah. You go to the floor plans. It's basically driven by this floor plan and the second floor plan. The more I cut this down, the smaller this bedroom got. I wanted to make it a comfortable size, which is typically about 12 feet in this direction. That would have governed it no matter what I did. Even if I made this bathroom could have been made smaller, but at that point it would still have been a side yard setback. And by the time you get in here and start calculating your distances for chairs, dining room tables, couches, living room, this was an existing wall that I wanted to keep. So basically this is all I really had to play with here for the addition. Right now it's right here where these dotted lines are, and it's a barely usable room.
Right. And on the left side, the encroachment is a 1-story garage. Is that accurate?
This?
Yeah, on the left to the east side, the non-conforming setback, right, there you go. It's a 1-story garage, okay. And with respect to the lot dimensions, you have a lot width of what?
$60 feet.
Okay, so it's non-conforming where 75 feet's required and a minimum setback of 6 feet's required, and at least on the right side, you have 5.2, so a difference of less than a foot. I'm just looking at my list of variances here. Let's see. Bear with me one second. So we covered that. Then you have the existing walkway just encroaches where it has about a 0-foot setback to the easterly lot line. So I think, again, if you listen to the last application, you'll probably hear some comments about coverage, but that's it for me for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Flores. Jason?
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, I was muted. Okay, so I wanted to see if the architect can walk through the existing grading of the property, where the existing grades are towards the east, the west, or the north, for clarification of the board.
We didn't obtain a grading plan, but from just my measurements at the corners, the front slopes down towards the left. I don't know exactly how much.
I see as part of the application there is a survey plan.
Yeah, and I think they just gave me the grades at the corners, because that's what I needed to in order to do the height calculation. So again, it slopes very, very little. It slopes down towards the front on the left side. The back is relatively flat. But as far as the rest of the property goes, I'm not really sure.
Okay, so that's something that I think is a very good information to have, because since you're adding a pool and you're adding a walkway around the pool, we need to know how you're planning to grade the walkway around the pool, and to make sure you're not impacting your neighbors to the back or to the south or to the east of the property. So that information I is not depicted on the site plan. So if for any reason this gets approved, is something that it should be considered to be added to it, that a grading plan should be implemented.
Okay.
Also, touching on stormwater management, you have not proposed any stormwater management. As you can see, one of my comments is to implement the stormwater management as well, and that's go with also with the grading plan. If the board decides to vote on this application tonight, I will also make the recommendation that the stormwater management should be added as one of the conditions to be handled with my office. Other than that, I don't have any other comments.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn to the board now for comments and questions on the application. Councilman Glass, I'll start with you.
Sorry, Chairman Goslin. No questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, in more of a comment, I don't think that I could consider a 45.5% approved lot coverage. I think that needs to be greatly reduced by a minimum of 5.5% or more. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about this. I notice the side yards, you have a pre-existing 4.7. So I don't have an issue with that variance because it's pre-existing. You went from 9.1 feet to 5.2. The zoning requirement, I believe, is 7.5. Your argument is that it would greatly reduce the size of the first floor bedroom and bath and mudroom. I guess I can probably live with that. Because as I look at this, if I'm correct, the neighbor already has a vinyl fence somewhat off the property lines. So though the number is 5.2, the distance actually to their vinyl fence is a little bit more. I don't know about that. So these are my thoughts, and I hope the applicant considers some of these, because 45.5, I don't think I can vote for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Cray.
Yeah, I the mayor, basically stated the same concerns I would have. For what it's worth, understanding wanting to add the square footage to the house, especially since, every square foot you add on the first floor, you're gonna get on the second floor too, and it gives you a lot of, ability to grow your living space. The patio going from the house all the way around the pool looks like it might be a place you could examine to maybe try to bring that coverage percentage down, because yeah, I agree. I mean, you heard the last application that we just reviewed. Went through a lot of work just to get from 40 down to 39. I can't see any way to look at 45 and a half and saying that's okay.
Okay, thanks, sir. Mr. Bastide.
Yeah, just to echo the comments of, 45.5% is, way too high, and, need to get it down, at 40 or below.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Pfeffer.
Sorry, yeah, I will just say ditto to the previous comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Boland?
Yes, I agree. Obviously, everything that was discussed about from the last application, how strong the board feels about coverage. If there's any way that you can increase that side yard setback as well, 5.2. A one-story garage on the other side really doesn't affect the neighbor as much as a full side of a house with second story and windows. I know you don't have a building coverage problem. If you could maybe make up for, take away on the side and extend it a little bit to the back and keep the same coverage. 5.2 is very close. So if there's anything you can do with the side yard setback as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Boland. Mr. Gibbons?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll certainly say the same things as everyone else. The coverage is just way too much. And to reiterate what Ms. Boland said, I'm looking at the Google Maps here, and basically this extra 5 feet is going to be looking into your neighbor's backyard on Bogert. You're looking at a bedroom there and a very large office on the second floor. Maybe those could be switched. Maybe an office could be on the first floor. Or just move where things are. That will make your house and your house to your left and right seem very on top of each other. There is a reason we have side setbacks. So I would seriously look at getting rid of that side setback issue on the right and rearranging, or consider that, what is now the small room downstairs is more of an office than a bedroom, and upstairs being a bedroom or being an office upstairs. But bottom line, 45% is just way too much. Just way too much. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Mr. Merman?
One question for the architect. Where is the location of your pool filters?
If you look on the site plan, they're lined up towards the right rear of the house.
So they're on an impervious pavement?
Yeah, they're
At
on
the
a
rear?
concrete slab. Mm-hmm.
Okay. They're not enclosed. There are no sheds. What are you gonna backwash to?
Say that again?
On your pool filters, where are you gonna backwash to?
Oh, I haven't designed any of that yet.
Well, you better think about it when you do the drainage calculation, if you're approved.
Yeah,
I
I'll
don't
have
wanna-
our
I
civil.
don't want to see that going into the street.
Sure.
I obviously echo the previous comments regarding lot coverage, improved lot coverage. There is no way you're going to be, the board's gonna look at 45, almost 46%. You're gonna have to go back and review your whole design and pull some of that out, whether it be your front porch or your paving or even your driveway expansion. But I'm gonna leave that to you. As far as the side yard, the mayor makes a very valid point where the west side yard, the Bogert side, there is quite a space to the neighbor's fence, which helps your cause. I note that. And I do note that the existing sidewalk, and I believe it's the one on the east side, that's only 6 inches to the property line where we're required to. I think we might consider a waiver under the current conditions for that. But I think you have your work cut out for you trying to get way down beyond the 45.5%. And I don't think you're going to do it tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. I won't go into, I support all of the comments that have been made by the board this evening, so suffice to say, that would be my position on this as well. At this point, I'm going to suggest we open to the public for comments, and I look for a motion to do so, please.
So
So
moved.
Second?
I think I had a first from Mr. Gibbons and a second from Ms. Boland. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, at this time, we're now open to the public for comments on this application only. Again, this application relates to 429 Windsor Road. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to be heard on this application?
There are attendees, but no one has raised their hand. If you're interested, press the raised hand button or dial *9 on your telephone keypad. Doesn't look like anyone.
I'm gonna go with you on that. I agree. That being the case, wait a minute.
Oh, did you see?
Yeah, I saw Marion Kennelly.
Okay. So if you just unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Mary Jane Kennelly, 430 Bogart Road, River Edge, New Jersey, corner of Bogart and Wayne.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I would just like to agree with all the comments that have been mentioned by the board. I'm here to support my other neighbors in the area and just like to see that we take a lot of time and consideration before anything moves forward on this situation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to be heard on this application only? You can raise your hand or *6 on your telephone keypad. Okay, at this time, I will look to the board for a motion to close to the public.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cray. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstain? Okay, we're now closed to the public. Comments on this application. To the applicant and Mr. Capo, again, you heard the considerations of the board, and similarly with the prior application, I'm going to make the same offer to you this evening to for us to consider carrying the application to allow you some time to go back and reconsider the scope of your project and to propose a modification to your project. And of course, you do have the option to proceed if that's what you want us to do this evening as well, but I would strongly encourage you to consider having us carry your application and going back and contemplating some modifications based on what you've heard from the board this evening.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a recommendation, Jenny, that we do continue this and because I'm confident we can get the coverage under the 40%. And we can address that side yard setback issue also.
Yeah, Alfredo and I talked briefly and we agree. We hear what the board and the town is saying, and we want to work with the town on this and hopefully come to a resolution that works for both of us, us as a family and the town. We understand the coverage, the concern there, the concern about the side setback. The only comment I will make real quick is, just trying to accommodate my mom when she does help to make her more comfortable. That's why we would like a bedroom on the first floor and my office upstairs, because I do work a lot from home. But yes, and then of course the engineer comments, we will definitely keep that in mind. So I think we're in agreement that we would like this proposal to be heard at the next meeting.
Okay, we appreciate your comments. I'm going to let Ms. Steinle explain the process for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so we will consult. We have our board secretary, Ed Alter, here, and he's the one who schedules all of our applications. We'll carry this application on the record to the next available meeting. Ed is saying, I believe that's the February meeting.
February 14th.
February 14th. So we will carry this application on the record tonight. to the February 14th meeting. You won't have to renotice with the newspaper or with your neighbors. We're just gonna make an announcement tonight. Once the board approves that the application will be carried, we'll make an announcement and that will be the notice. And then there'll be a note in the agenda that this application will be heard on the 14th of February.
Jenny, I'm
Yes.
gonna actually be on vacation that day.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'll be in
Yeah, well,
South.
you can work out the schedule with
Yeah.
Mr. Alter,
Okay.
at a separate time. We don't have to do that this evening,
Okay.
so.
It can
um,
always be carried again, if there's a scheduling conflict, so.
Yeah.
The
We'll just
next
do it on the
available date is the 28th.
of February.
Okay, I will work with Ed on finalizing the date. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll need a motion to carry?
Yes, please.
Okay. Look to the board for a motion to carry the application for applicant is Jenny Castaneda Tam. Property is 429 Windsor Road, block 809, lot 25. To carry this to the next available meeting for the board at a determined time with our board clerk and the applicant.
So made, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, thank you. Ms. Steinle.
All right, so at this time, the application for 429 Windsor Road, block 809, lot 25, for proposed renovation to the dwelling, patio, pool, and driveway extension will be carried on the record to February 14th, 2024, without further notice. And if additional adjournments are required, they will be coordinated with our board clerk at Alter and will be posted on the agenda.
I might be wrong, but I'm looking at the document that I have. It says block 11, lot 350, but on the agenda, it says block 809, lot 25. Does that matter to the motion?
It is block 809, lot 25.
Okay, great.
Good.
Oh, well, that's what it says on the survey. Is that correct?
It's
On
what it
the,
says on the tax record too.
okay. Just for the architects, note the block and lot on the architectural plans, I think is incorrect.
Yeah, our tax records say block 809, lot 25.
Yeah, the survey has 80925 as well.
Okay, I'll revise that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, folks.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Our final agenda item for this evening under new business is the Green Papaya. Property is 110 Kinderkamak Road, block 1407, lot 5. This is a change in ownership of the Green Papaya Restaurant, seeking site plan approval as required for a food handler's license. I believe the applicant is in the audience this evening, as well as the applicant's professionals. Good evening, folks.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Malcolm Blum, BLUM, appearing for the applicant. My address is 111 Kinderkamak Road in River Edge.
Okay.
And will your clients be testifying tonight, Mr. Blum?
Yes.
All right, so if you please
We also
raise your right.
We also have Ms. Bullock, who's the engineer who drew the site plan.
Okay.
We'll get
So all
everybody
those
sworn in.
I can swear everyone in.
Before you do that, my client is Mr. Wee. He has with him a Mandarin interpreter if it should be necessary for anything to be interpreted. Mr. Wee does speak a fair amount of English, but there's always the possibility he may need some interpretation.
Okay, thank you. So if everyone who's going to be testifying, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes, I
Yes,
do.
I do.
Okay, and then I'll have the applicant just state his name and address for the record.
Mr. Wee?
Yeah, my name is Yang Wei, last name Wei, and the address is 110 Kinnecama Road on River Edge, New Jersey, 07661.
All right, and the interpreter, if you just please provide your name for the record as well.
Okay, last name P-E-I, first name F-A-N-G.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And the engineer, if you could please state your name, provide your business address, and provide the board with your background and qualifications.
Donna Bullock, B-U-L-L-O-C-K, 110 Central Avenue, Island Heights, New Jersey. I graduated from New Jersey Institute of Technology in Newark with a civil engineering degree. I've been working in the civil engineering field now for approximately 35 years. I acquired my PE license in 1999. I ran my own engineering firm for 11 years. I currently work at Morgan Engineering. I'm providing testimonies for planning boards and zoning boards for site plans and subdivisions and plot plans and variances. My license is active and current.
Okay. Any questions from the board as to the engineer's qualifications? Okay. Mr. Blum, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Well, this is a effort to get site plan approval pursuant to section 350-4E of the local ordinances. Now, the only difference between the prior owner and the current owner is the change of ownership. Nothing has been changed, nothing will be changed, nothing is planned to be changed. The building exterior will remain exactly the same. The building interior will remain exactly the same and has so remained. The number of tables in the restaurant is precisely the same as it was before. The number of chairs, the same. The size of the kitchen is exactly the same. And everything else within the interior of the building is remaining the same. Similarly, the exterior, the parking area, there will be no change except anything that may be required by the board.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Behrens.
Yeah, so my understanding is of the application is the same. It's in many respects fairly straightforward. Having reviewed the plan, this does give us an opportunity just to review any conditions that may need modification. I don't have many comments in this regard, but just looking at the site plan initially, at the northerly end, I believe there's a space where there's 14 parking spaces accounted for, but they're not striped. At least they're not striped on the plan. So that seems to be a simple modification. Ms. Bull, could you just maybe comment on that? Are they supposed to be striped in that location, or?
They haven't been striped for, as far as I can tell, many, many years. They're extra spots. They've never really been used.
Right.
But if you want some stripe, we certainly will comply.
Right. Well, I would say in reality, they're probably not used very often. I mean, I drive by that site all the time, and I haven't seen them used for the restaurant, let's say. So I would defer to the board in that regard. My primary concern relates to, I guess, the dumpster area, which looking at various site photos and having driven by, there's at any given time there's anywhere from 1 to 3 dumpsters that are kind of just hanging out. We'll say in or near the parking area, and we do have a provision of the code that requires screening of dumpster areas, to create an enclosure. So I would suggest that as a condition of approval or as a condition of this application. I don't know if the applicant has any comments for that. It's certainly subject to the board's discretion.
Well, I know that Mr. Wee has already advised me, and I can certainly advise you that if the board requires anything of that nature, he will comply.
Right. One rub to that, which I just reminded myself, is because your lot is basically surrounded on all sides by streets, that almost everything is a front yard. And so, 6-foot fencing in a front yard would technically not be permitted, but again, I still think I would recommend screening the dumpsters or locating them in an area where they can be screened would be my recommendation. And to that point, along the issue of aesthetics, it seems like it's been a while since this site has had any attention. And I would just offer that, maybe the applicant would consider, or the landlord, well, clarify for me, Mr. Bloom, is the applicant the landlord or the owner of the property?
No, the applicant just owns the restaurant.
Right. So my thought would be that someone, looks at maybe doing some landscape improvements, as this is just a very visible site in River Edge, and in our, what you might consider a downtown area. But again, it looks like it's been a long time since anyone's maybe, looked at improving it in any meaningful way. So those are the only comments I have. I would just welcome the applicant to River Edge otherwise, and wish them luck.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Flores.
Hey, good evening. I will concur with Tom regarding the screening of the dumpsters. Since it's a visible site, Skinner Comac, you have Main Street, you have Elizabeth Street. Just to point it out also that yes, those 14 existing parking spaces that are not striped should be striped for clarification. And then the other thing which I need to point it out that, because you depicted on the site plan that there are roughly 35 parking spaces, then you need to meet ADA compliance. That puts you that you need to ADA spaces to be striped. So that's something that, you should probably do in the front, since you have the extra 14 spaces in the back to be addressed.
What we can do, I'm sorry, I can address the ADA if you'd like. So what we're going to do is this will be the only change to the site plan would be putting a second ADA parking space next to the existing one. The existing one is approximately 11 feet wide, so that'll be the van accessible. Then we'll put a 5-foot loading stripe and then another 8-foot space, because we do need 2 spaces because we have more than 26 parking spaces. So we will do that in the front area, eliminating one of the existing parking spaces, which will reduce it to 34, which is still over the required 24 spaces.
Good. So there you go. That's there you go. That's the answer. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I have no other further comment on this. It was my understanding that it's just a change of ownership, and then that's it. I have no further comments.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, Mr. Flores. Let me turn to the board now for comments, questions. I'm going to start with Ms. Boland, please.
I have no comments.
Okay, thank you. Let me go to Mr. Bustede.
No comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor.
I wasn't able to check today, but I believe if you look at the Google Maps of December 2022, there was a sign on the south side of the building. Is that sign still there? The sign that says "We are open."
You're talking about on the facing the railroad.
Grand Avenue.
The sign was there previously, but it was blown off last night by the wind, so it's
Okay.
not.
So I would ask that you comply with signage. I don't believe that that's approved signage, so I would ask that not be put back up. Also, if you look at the Grand Avenue again, I wasn't able to drive by today. I had looked at, tried to, but the one thing led to another. There was a grand opening, a couple of things, not as an excuse, but just as by way of explanation. It looks like the border between the roof and the wall has lost some of its green paint or its green vinyl. So also on that side, I don't know if it's still existing, but the awning above the window from Grand Avenue is faded, and I'd look to see maybe that could be replaced, as well as the vent above is all rusted, and it appears, if it's still there, it may not still be there, that it might already been repaired. That this be corrected too. Yeah. Somebody?
I don't think anybody was gonna say anything at that point.
Oh, I thought I heard sound in the background. I apologize. So just basically, it is. My wife loves the place. She loves food there. But the building is it could be cleaned up a little bit, and hopefully that these improvements could be considered. Also, it appears that the fence on the Grand Avenue and Elizabeth is a bit worn and warped, and so that would need to be improved also, or I'd hope that could be improved if the applicant and or the owner of the property could come to some sort of agreement about improving that, so that it looked a little bit nicer in town. And I agree with the comments about the screenage of the dumpsters. And that's all my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gibbons.
No, I have no real comments, just don't change the recipes. Food's great.
Mr. Pfeffer.
Yeah, I generally agree with everything that everyone has said. I don't feel strongly about, I'm concerned that we don't want to dump a lot of additional expenses on the applicant just as they're getting started with their new business. So I hesitate to say that I would support a lot of these changes as conditions for approval, but they're all good recommendations. They're all good suggestions. I would say that screening in the dumpsters is probably, not just an aesthetic or cosmetic improvement, but it also probably for health and sanitation reasons, it's probably a good idea to screen in the dumpsters. I frankly don't think that the parking lot needs to be striped except for the handicap areas. I've been to the restaurant many times. I've never had a problem parking there. There's always been excess parking space, particularly along the northern edge of the parking area. So I never really felt that there was a need for more clearly designated parking spaces. So, I think they're all good recommendations, but I would vote to approve without making any of these a strict condition, except where, obviously compliance with signage codes and other codes are necessary and required. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. Councilman Glass.
Thank you. No, nothing other than obviously when entering the town from the south, high profile, high visibility. So as everyone suggested, any aesthetic improvements would be most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cray.
Hey, I think Mr. Pfeffer kind of stated what my thoughts were pretty accurately. I don't want to put a ton of conditions on just transferring a license other than meet code requirements, signage, screening, etc. The other things are asks, and it would be wonderful to see.
Okay, thanks, sir. Last but certainly not least, Mr. Merman.
Mr. Chairman, I would like Mr. Bloom to, as the client's representative, to consider, and the board to consider, a signage recommendation or a proposal that I've been looking at. This building has frontage on three sides, street frontage on three sides. Right now, you only have one sign relative to your Green Papaya name on Kinder Kamak. I think for you, it would be very helpful from a business standpoint that you had a similar sign on the Grand Avenue sign, which is the south side, which is the south side. In lieu of that, I would like to see that smoothie sign removed, which apparently sounds like it self-removed in the storm last night, and the banner that's in the front lawn also removed. I would like you to respond to that, Mr. Bloom.
Well, the banner is not a permanent sign. It's just a temporary sign. If the board wants it removed, the applicant will certainly comply. But we would ask that that be allowed to stay at least for a while since they've just opened up.
Well, if I could chime in on that issue, the borough does allow temporary signs for grand openings and the like, but there is a permit process for that. So I would recommend making an application for any type of sign that you'd like to remain on the property.
Okay, whatever the board requires, we'll follow.
Okay, it kind of makes business sense to get more exposure with your name. I don't know how the board feels about that, but that's my my feeling. Mr. Chairman, should we get a feeling from the board on that?
Sure.
Include it in a resolution if necessary.
Sure, I'll open it to the members of the board for response to Mr. Merman's recommendation, suggestion.
I agree.
Mr. Chairman, I think as long as the business is in compliance with permits and codes, we should leave it to their business discretion as to what signs they need and where the signs should be located. Again, as long as they're complying with the rules, you know, it's their business. They should have discretion on how to advertise it. That's my feeling.
Okay. Anyone else?
And just as a comment, the applicant didn't request a variance for a second wall sign. I'm not sure exactly how many signs are existing wall signs, but if they were asking for additional signage, they would have needed to notice for that, and they didn't ask for the additional signage. So I think that's a little bit outside of the board's purview at this time. Yeah.
So maybe that's something to pursue on an alternate path.
Yeah.
Through the permitting process.
All right, so you said it would require us a variance at this point?
Well, they didn't ask for that relief. So the board can't grant that relief at this time.
Okay, understand. All right.
But
So,
take it more as a suggestion from Mr. Merman that you might want something to consider.
Yes, we certainly appreciate the suggestion.
Okay. Anything further, Mr. Merman? Excuse me.
Well, yes, I have one other comment. If we're going to be restriping the handicap spots and with the signage and everything, you're going to have the striping machine there, and 14 stripes, white stripes up on the north end is not going to break the budget. So I recommend, and I'm going to make a motion that those northerly 14 spaces be striped. And I guess that's it.
Okay. I think I've covered everybody. The board keeps moving around. I apologize. All right. At this time, I'm going to look for a motion to open to the public for comment on this application only, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Boland. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, at this time, we're now open to the public for comments on this application alone. Again, this is Green Papaya, 110 Kinderkamak Road. I see we have 3 people In attendance, we have a 201 area code, Marion Kennelly and Nancy Merriman. If you wish to be heard on this application, please push the raise hand button or *6 if you're on your phone. Okay, I'm going to presume that no one wishes to be heard on this application. So at this time, I'll look for a motion to close to the public, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstained? Okay, we're now closed to the public. Any further comments or questions from the board on this application?
我们有问题吗？
Okay.
I can run down just some of the items that we discussed, just to confirm with Mr. Blum.
Yeah, I was good. That's let's do that as a precursor to looking for a motion from the board.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm the applicant agrees to stripe the 14 spaces in the property and, or in the parking area, and to provide striping for 2 ADA spaces next to, including 1 existing space and then 1 new ADA space for a total of 2 ADA spaces. To screen the applicant agrees to screen the dumpster area or locate it in an area that can be screened. To work with the landlord to make landscaping or other aesthetic improvements, and to comply with the signage requirements of the borough ordinance, including removal of the temporary sign or seeking.
We agree if the board requires those. As far as the handicap spots, we have to do that by law anyway, so
Okay.
we certainly will comply with that. And anything else that the board requires, we will go along with.
Okay. That said, I'll look to the board for a motion on the application, please.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Merman.
I'll make a motion that regarding the Green Papaya facility at 110 Kinderkamak Road, block 1407, lot 5, grant a food handler's license. That the land use board grant a food handler's license with the following issues that would, and improvements that were just mentioned by the attorney.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Merman. Is there a second from the board, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. Ms. Steinle, when you're ready.
All right, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
oh, Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
and Mr. Bastide.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay. Congratulations, folks. Best of luck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the
Thank-
members. of the board. We appreciate your input and we will follow the board's requests.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming in this evening. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Luck.
All right. At this time, we have nothing left to discuss, but welcome back, everyone, to a new year. Look forward to another great year of working with you all.
Mr. Caslin, may I, under old business, mention, address the idea of our issue about builders over improving the property?
Yes, sir. I think we have a few items that require some attention, that being one of them.
So I'm not looking for us to enter into debate or discussion. What I'm thinking of that we might think about, and Marina, if this is not possible, I'm wondering if we have the authority to recommend and the council has the authority to approve a change in the ordinance that might say something like this: 5%, if not 5%, some percent, 4%, 6% of the improved lot coverage is reserved for rear or side patio, deck, and or pool and necessary apron. Would something like that be something we could consider in the future, Ms. Stinley?
So 5% of approved lot coverage.
Is reserved for rear or side improvements that would include patio, deck, pool, and or necessary aprons. Is that something we could consider at a future date?
I think that is something that we could consider. Having the specific list of items that could be included could possibly create issues, but we can put some sort of catch-all language in there, or other similar improvements, things like that. I think that would help the applicants we saw today. And I'm not sure, I'm not aware of any other towns that do it quite like that, but just on initial review and having looked into it a bit in the past, I haven't seen anything that would prohibit River Edge from taking that perspective. I don't know if Tom might have some other.
Yeah, I know of a town that allows a certain amount of coverage with a pool or without a pool.
Okay.
So if they're not proposing a pool, it's lower than if they're proposing a pool, because everybody in this particular town wants pools. So they save room for it for the next owner.
So having heard, well, wait, having heard what Ms. Boland said, Ms. Stinley said, and since it's 10:30, I recommend, if I may, that we put it on the agenda for the future date. Ms. Stinley have some more time to review the language, and all of us think about it. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Ryan. I'm just concerned that I brought up something nobody expected. It's 10:30 at night. But if the body is open to discussing this language or some language like this, that it be put on the agenda for the future. But Ryan, I cut you off. I apologize.
I don't need to continue the conversation too long, but just something to think about, because I see this a lot in my industry, and in looking at the one property's property description of the listing when the person bought the home, it says a backyard perfect for a pool. And that's an agent selling a property by a builder that covered the property 34.8% of the property. So even if there's some sort of education of when these builders are building and when they're selling these properties, of some sort of education for these buyers, because they have no clue. And unfortunately, most of the agents don't have a clue either. And I do know of builders that are building properties and putting the patio in after they get the CO. So there's definitely people that are skirting the system. And unfortunately, we have homeowners that are purchasing properties that think they can put all this stuff in the backyard, and they can't. And they're either being misinformed or they're being lied to. And it's awful. And I see it all the time, and it drives me absolutely crazy.
That's why I thought this language would be good, because it would restrict what builders were doing.
We need to do something, because it's getting bad, and every single property that's built is covered 34.9%.
A topic definitely for further discussion and consideration.
Yep.
So.
If
Anything
I
further
can,
from
just 30 more seconds. Just
you're on the clock, Mr. Barron.
just for application, different topic, just for applications involving food handler's license or any other type of issue that involves the health department, if the board could just forward their conclusions to the health department. So, because typically once site plan approval is granted, the health department then takes over to do what they have to do from a licensure standpoint. And sometimes they don't, get that the board has approved something or denied something. So just if we create a mechanism to make them aware after these types of approvals, I think would help them, is the feedback that I've gotten. So just wanted to offer that.
So maybe that's okay. There's a process there, I'm sure, between Ed's office, once the resolutions are received back, that's something that could be added to the process, I would imagine. So
So for the site plans for food handlers license, they need to also go to the health department.
Health Department.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman,
Mr. Pfeffer.
forgive me for being annoying. I
I'm not sure I
apologize
can,
in
but
advance.
I'm gonna-
I will just take 10 seconds to say, I would really encourage us to set some sort of outside deadline to revisit the mayor's proposal, because I would hate to see another year go by where this issue doesn't
I'm
get
going to cut
discussed.
you off only because I think you're right, but there are a few other things that we were discussing that in prior meetings that we're going to have to revisit, and I think there's some of this being another issue to add to the list that we're going to have to go back and refocus on as a board. I think we ended up getting a fair volume of applications that required our attention. We obviously have a responsibility to address those. But there are other things that we need to go back on, that are affecting the town, and from a land use perspective, that I think we do need to consider and do need to focus on, and possibly come up with some different processes, if you will. But that's well taken. So with that, more to follow on that. Certainly we'll come up with a schedule and topics of things that I know that we're being researched, and we'll reconvene on those issues as we get into the new year now.
Mr. Chairman, we might consider, you might want to poll the board for whether or not we could have a special meeting to address these either in February, March, or April.
I was gonna do that in an email, just send it around, and we can do that to the extent we need to be, formal, on the record. We can certainly do that, but I think we'll start putting that together and possible work session or something to that effect. Okay. Anyone else? All right.
Motion to close?
I'll look for a motion to close, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second.
I think Mr. Pfeffer was a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? All right, we stand adjourned at 10:37 p.m. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Have a
Good night.
good evening.
Good night.
And welcome aboard, Mr. Glass.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.